The Austrian Grand Prix was held last week at the Red Bull Ring, which is located inside the greenish Styrian Mountains. This was very important for the Red Bull team as this is their home race. Red Bull and Verstappen were the clear favourites to win this race with the current form, and the Austrian racing team was able to continue their winning streak here as predicted earlier. Through this video, we are going to discuss how things unfolded in Austria. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. This was held according to the revised sprint format, and there was no effect from sprinting Saturday to the main race on Sunday. For the race on Sunday, the main qualifying session was held on Friday evening after the one and only practice session in the morning. Clear favourites for the pole in Austria were Red Bull and Ferrari drivers, with what they had demonstrated during the practice session a few hours before the main qualifying. During qualifying, we saw that many drivers were exceeding the track limits and their lap times were deleted for that reason, especially the championship leader Max Verstappen. Several lap times were deleted in both Q1 and Q2, but the unluckiest one was his teammate, Sergio Perez, as he was unable to make it into the top 10 shootout after deleting all of his best efforts. That was a huge blow to his championship hopes, as this gave a clear opportunity for his teammate to win the race in the Red Bull Ring. Tsunoda, Guan Yu, Sargent, Magnussen and De Vries were the first to fail at the first hurdle, and it caused more problems for AlphaTauri driver Nick De Vries than any other, as he is the one on the edge of losing his AlphaTauri seat. In Q2, Verstappen went quicker in his third attempt after 2 cool laps, which were strong enough to make it to Q3. Perez was his biggest challenge, staying 0.039 seconds behind him, but his first 2 laps were deleted and used his third attempt to qualify for Q3. But the Mexican yielded the same results, and he was unable to keep his RB19 within the track limits. After a big upgrade to his McLaren Challenger, Norris also recorded a lap time which was good enough for Q3, and it was also deleted for the same reason. Drivers who were knocked out from Q2 were George Russell, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Oscar Piastri and Sergio Perez. Russell and Perez were the notable omissions from Q3, and this created a huge void at the top. Ferrari drivers were the biggest challenge to Verstappen in Q3, but both were outperformed on his first run by 0.2 of a second and further improved up to 1 minute and 4.391 seconds, just 0.048 seconds ahead of Leclerc during his final lap. Sainz was the third fastest ahead of Norris, and behind them, Lewis Hamilton, the Aston Martins of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, Nico Hülkenberg, Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon completed the grid. According to the revised sprint format, a separate qualifying session was held for the sprint race, and Verstappen was able to secure the pole position easily by beating his teammate Sergio Perez. Lando Norris was able to secure the third position in the starting grid thanks to the upgrades introduced ahead of the Austrian GP. The biggest heartbreak of the session was experienced by Hamilton, as his lap times were deleted, dropping him to P18 in the starting grid. Russell was stranded in the pits and didn't make any competitive time in SQ2, dropping himself to 15th in the starting pack. When everything was ready to start the race, raindrops started to kiss the track, and teams decided to switch for slicks and intermediates except Bottas, who decided to stay on medium rubber. Both Verstappen and Perez had a good start to the sprint race, and they were running wheel to wheel till turn 1, and Perez forced his way past on the inside line. Verstappen attacked him again at turn 3, under braking, and both of them ran wide, offering a chance for Hülkenberg to do something immediately, but Verstappen responded quickly and secured the race lead from the Haas driver. But Perez was under pressure and lost his place to Hülkenberg, splitting the 2 Red Bulls. There was an intense fight between Sainz, Alonso and Stroll for P4. After catching up behind the squabbling Red Bulls and suffering a slow exit, Norris instantly dropped from P4 to P10. Hamilton, who experienced a bad shootout, was charging through the field and was able to reach P13 from P18 by lap 11. When the track dried up slowly, Hülkenberg lost his advantage and started to drop to P4 behind Perez and Sainz. In the midfield, there was a wheel-to-wheel battle between Ocon, Leclerc and Norris for the final point-paying position. When there were 8 laps to go, Russell took a radical decision to pit a soft rubber to his W14 when the track was not fully ready for off-slicks tyres. Hülkenberg, who was slowly losing positions, decided to follow the same strategy but dropped further within the pack. A few few laps later, Piastri, Hamilton, Magnussen, Logan Sargent, Nick de Vries and Zhou Guanyu also followed the same strategy, costing around 20 seconds inside the pit lane. It was another Red Bull 1-2 at the top, and Verstappen beat Perez by 21 seconds. Behind them, Carlos Sainz was able to secure the last podium place of the sprint race. Hülkenberg got the maximum usage of the soft tyre at the final stage of the race, climbing up to P6 again. In front of him, there was a very close battle between two Aston Martins, and Stroll managed to secure P4, beating Alonso by a very close margin. The last point offering position was secured by Esteban Ocon, defending the late attack from Russell until the last moment. The main race started with 18 challengers on the track, as Magnussen and de Vries decided to start the race from the pit due to component changes under parc fermé conditions. The majority of drivers started the race with a medium set of rubber, except Alonso, Bottas and Magnussen, who were on hards. Pole sitter Verstappen got a good start to the race, but was constantly subjected to the attacks from Leclerc, who was running behind. However, he defended the attacks of Leclerc very well at turns 1, 3 and 4. On lap number 3, Tsunoda clipped the back of Ocon, losing his front wing, and Bottas was also involved in an incident later. The safety car was deployed, and with that advantage, Tsunoda and Magnussen entered the pit lane. At the race restart, Verstappen was only 1 second ahead of Leclerc, who was running behind him. The reigning world champion was able to improve it up to 2 seconds by lap 8. Since the beginning, Perez and Russell, who experienced a bad qualifying on Friday, were charging through the midfield for a point finish. They went wheel to wheel several times on their way to the top 10. Norris complained against Hamilton for the violation of track limits, and the 7-time world champion was given a black and white flag by race control. A few laps later, both Hamilton and Tsunoda were given a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits several times. Hülkenberg, who enjoyed a very successful qualifying session, had to park his smoking Haas Challenger by the side of the track as he experienced a loss of power. The virtual safety car was deployed, and Hamilton, Norris, Gasly, Albon, Russell, Ocon, Piastri and Sargent decided to pit a new set of rubber with that advantage. 1 lap later, Leclerc, Sainz, Alonso and Stroll also pitted, and it was a slow pit stop for both the Ferrari cars. Sainz lost some important track positions for that reason, and he had to fight back strongly within the next few laps to pass Norris, Perez and Hamilton to regain 3rd place. Verstappen maintained a 15 seconds gap with Leclerc by the end of lap number 23 and decided to enter the pit lane for the first time 2 laps later. He rejoined the track behind Leclerc and Perez, ending his run of 249 consecutive laps led. At turn 3, Verstappen passed Sainz for P2, and the Dutchman was running with a 6-second gap to Leclerc, who was leading the race. Then Hamilton overtook Norris for P4 at the same corner. Thanks to the newly introduced upgrades, Norris was enjoying huge success, but his teammates damaged his front wing in the midfield and dropped to the back of the grid. Many drivers were seen exceeding the track limits since qualifying, and Sainz and Albon also joined that 5-second penalty club of exceeding the track limits. By lap 34, Verstappen was able to retake the lead from Leclerc with the help of DRS. There was a wheel-to-wheel battle between de Vries and Magnussen at the back of the grid, repeating their battle during the Canadian GP. However, it ended up offering a 5-second time penalty for the AlphaTauri driver for pushing Magnussen off the track. Sainz, who was running 3rd, decided to enter the pit lane on lap 46 and served a 5-second time penalty there. Since rejoining the track, he started a thrilling battle with his older teammate Lando Norris and was able to beat him with a clever driving style. A couple of laps later, Leclerc entered the pit lane following a strategy similar to Sainz. On lap 50, Verstappen pitted with a medium tyre set and was able to secure a race lead from his teammate. Perez also entered the pit lane 1 lap later, switching to hard compounds. But he lost some important track positions, dropping to the 5th position. However, with some incredible passes, he was able to pass both Norris and Sainz for P3 within a gap of 10 laps from his last pit stop. There was a battle between Stroll and Albon for the final point, and the Aston Martin was able to win that battle thanks to its fresher tyres. Extending the penalty club, both Sargent and Magnussen were offered a 5-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits at the later part. Verstappen wanted the fastest lap point as well, and pitted a fresher tyre at the final stage of the race. With that advantage, he was able to record the best lap of the day as he took the checkered flag. Behind him, Leclerc crossed the line with a gap of 5 seconds, and Perez was able to secure the final podium spot, demonstrating an incredible drive from P15 to P3 in front of Red Bull's home crowd. Then Sainz and Norris crossed the line respectively, completing the top 5. We saw a clear decline in Aston Martin, and Alonso's efforts were sufficient only for P6 in Austria without any competitive fights at the top. The Mercedes duo, Hamilton and Russell, crossed the line as 7th and 8th in the final standings. Gasly and Stroll were able to secure final point offering places, but later, Norris and Alonso were promoted further after the penalisation Sainz suffered from the violation of track limits. This is how the Grand Prix weekend in Austria ended, handing over a 5th consecutive victory to the championship leader Max Verstappen. Will he be able to extend that count up to 6 with a victory at Silverstone? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. See you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.